Hello, Sway here, Grandy, whatever you like to call me. Hi, and welcome to my grandchildren. Bienvenidos a mis nietos. In ascending order, they are Alice, who's not here. She's a little bit young to be watching just yet. But I went to see her on Wednesday this week, a couple of days ago, and it was great fun. She was having a brilliant time bouncing up and down on her. She's got this sort of, it's called a jungle gym, and she sits in it, and it's got little animals all around the front like that. And can you see my hands? Yeah. And there's little things that stick up, and she grabs them, and then she gets excited and jumps up and down, and it plays a tune as well. She's great fun. But she's not here. She's my youngest grandchildren. Next is Florencia, who will be 1 year old soon, won't she? Hang on, no, 2 years old. Dear, dear. Sorry, Florencia, I'm demoting you. Florencia will be 2 years old very, very soon. And then we have Saoirse. Then we have Aureliano. Then we have Arthur. Then we have Julia. Julia is the eldest, and she is a very, 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 very chatty girl. I like her. I like to get a little message from Julia. It's good, and it would be nice to see. A picture of Aureliano. I've not seen a picture of Aureliano for a while. I understand there's been some haircuts, so I'm very keen to see what you look like, because I might not recognise you now. Right, I think we need a story, don't you? And I've got a story tonight which I can remember reading to, certainly read it to Julia and Aureliano. I don't know if I read it to Arthur and Saoirse, but certainly can remember reading it to Julia and Aureliano. And it's by Julia Donaldson, and it's called The Snake Who Came to Stay. So, shall we have it? It's got nice pictures, but the pictures are in black and white rather than in colour. So, but I think they're nice pictures. I think you'll like them. Here we are, The Snake Who Came to Stay. And Julia Donaldson is the same person who wrote the Gruffalo. I'll just make my picture a little bit bigger, because I think Saoirse was a little bit worried that Grandad was only small. So there I am, a little bit bigger now. I'm only going to be reading, so I don't want to bother doing that. So, The Snake Who Came to Stay. It's quite a long story, this. So, I better crack on. Chapter 1. Holidays for Pets. A snake? Said Mum. A snake? No, you're not looking after a snake. Oh, please, Mum, said Polly. It's only for the holidays. Polly knew what Mum was like. Sometimes no could turn into I'll think about it. Doris is a very nice snake, said Polly. I've met her. She's not poisonous, so don't be mean, Mum. Mean? Said Mum. What a cheek! I've said yes to 2 guinea pigs, a bird, and a whole load of goldfish. I just don't fancy a snake in the house. But where else can Doris go? Asked Polly, getting the girl and the snake mixed up. She can't go on holiday with Jack, and we're not going away. Oh, go on, Mum. Well, said Mum, I'll think about it, but I want you to take that notice down from the front gate. The notice on the front gate said, Polly's holiday home. Holidays for pets. Are you going away this summer? Why not give your pets a holiday too? Please phone 236-566. Polly smiled as she took the notice down. She knew Mum. I'll think about it almost always meant yes. Chapter 2. The Silent Snake. The first animals to arrive at Polly's holiday home were the 2 guinea pigs. They belonged to Polly's friend Katy, and their names were Bill and Ben. Bill was thin and Ben was fat. They had their own house and garden. Ooh, can you hear Holly barking? And Grandma shouting at her. Bill was thin and Ben was fat. They had their own house and garden. The house was called a hutch, and the garden was called a run. It was a box made of wire netting which went on the grass. There, you can see it there on the picture, can't you? There's Polly and her friend Katy petting the guinea pigs, which is the fat one. So maybe it's the one that Polly's holding. Mum was happy when she saw how fast Bill and Ben ate the grass. If we move their run every day, I won't need to get the lawnmower out all summer, she said. Bill and Ben needed extra food as well as the grass. When they were hungry, they pushed their noses up to the netting and went week, week, week. They made so much noise that you could hear them from the house. Jenny used to have guinea pigs, didn't she? Did they make that noise, Julia? Week, week. Or what did they eat, Aureliano? Did they eat grass? Or was it alfalfa? I never actually saw the guinea pigs. A few days after Bill and Ben came, Mrs. McNair from down the road brought her big black mynah bird round. He likes to be in the kitchen so he can join in all the talk. Don't you, Charlie? She said. Ding dong, said Charlie. He sounded just like a doorbell. Charlie copies everything, don't you, Charlie? Said Mrs. McNair. Charlie put his head on one side, then he started to sing in a funny high voice. I dream of Jeanie with the light brown hair, he sang. Mrs. McNair laughed. He's copying me now. That's my favourite song, isn't it, Charlie? Brum, brum, said Charlie. Now he sounded just like a motorbike. Gosh, fancy having a bird like that. When I was little, I used to go into Northwich, which is near where I lived, in Cheshire, to the pet shop to buy, I used to buy fishing stuff, floats, bit of line, maggots for bait, things like that. And they had a mynah bird in the pet shop, and that could talk. It used to talk to you when he came in. He used to go, ow, ow. Very weird. The goldfish didn't come to the holiday home because they were in a pond in the garden next door. Polly just had to check on them and put more water in the pond if it didn't rain. Doris the snake was the last animal to arrive. Jack brought her round in her tank. The tank had a little heater in it to keep her warm. But you still need to keep her in the warmest room in the house, said Jack. That's the kitchen, said Mum with a sigh. I won't have any space left to cook. But Mum did find a place for Doris on the worktop, between Charlie's cage and the phone. Goodbye, Doris, said Jack. Doris didn't move. She didn't even hiss. You see, Mum, said Polly, she'd be no bother at all. I hope she's less bother than that snake we had the other day. The one that was in The Fox and the Snake and was trapped under a log. Do you remember? He was a mean snake, wasn't he? He didn't believe that one good turn deserved another. The holiday home was a bit noisy for Mum. Bill and Ben went week, week, and Charlie kept singing about Jeanie with the light brown hair, and the phone rang all the time. More and more people wanted to know if Polly could look after their pets. Mum always said no, and Polly didn't even try to turn it into I'll think about it. She's got too many as it is, hasn't she? But Doris the snake wasn't noisy at all. Sometimes she hissed, but only very softly. I told you she'd be good, said Polly. One day, Polly and Mum were having breakfast when the phone went yet again. Bring, bring. I'll get it, said Polly. She picked up the phone and said, hello, but nobody was there. Then they heard the ringing noise again. Bring, 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 bring. Well, guess what? It wasn't the phone ringing. It was Charlie the myna bird. Polly laughed, but Mum said, oh, there's the phone ringing. Why is nobody there? But Mum said, I'm not having that, and she moved Charlie's cage into the sitting room. Later that day, Polly was outside with the guinea pigs when the postman came with 2 postcards for her. One of the cards was from Mrs. McNair. It had a picture of a Spanish dancer in a pretty dress. Polly took it into the sitting room and showed it to Charlie. He looked at the girl on the front and he said, pretty boy, pretty boy. The other card was from Jack. It had a picture of a vulture on it, and on the back it said, show Doris this picture and tell her I miss her. Polly went into the kitchen. She slid the top off Doris's tank and put the card in. Doris gave a soft hiss. At the same time, Polly heard an extra loud week, week noise. Week, week. It's those guinea pigs, she said. Oh, where are we? But they can't be hungry. I've just fed them. I hope nothing's wrong. Polly ran outside and Bill and Ben were in their run eating the grass. That's funny, said Polly. Then she heard the noise again. Week, week. It was coming from inside the house. Polly went back into the house, into the sitting room, and there was Charlie in his cage with his head on one side going, week, 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 just like Bill and Ben. You copycat, said Polly. I dream of Jeanie with light brown hair, Charlie sang. All at once, Polly remembered something. She stopped laughing. She'd been in such a rush to check that the guinea pigs were all right that she'd left the top off Doris's tank. But Doris wouldn't escape, she said. She's such a good, quiet, still kind of snake. All the time, all the same, Polly ran back into the kitchen. The tank was empty. Doris had gone. Chapter 4 is called The Search. She can't have gone far, said Polly. She looked all around the room, in the sink, because she knew snakes like water, and under the radiator, because they like to keep warm. There was no Doris anywhere. Polly even looked under the cooker, and just then Mum came in. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'm looking for Doris," said Polly, in a very small voice. She knew what was coming next, and here it came. "I said we shouldn't have a snake," said Mum. "I never should have said yes." Mum did help Polly to look for Doris, but every now and again she said something like, "What if she turns up in my bed in the middle of the night?" Which wasn't very helpful. It was bad enough that Mum was cross, but it was Jack that Polly was really worried about. She knew that he was missing Doris, his pet. He'd said so on the postcard. How was he going to feel if she'd been lost forever? Polly and Mum looked all over the house. Mum had calmed down a bit. "Well, it's very odd," she said, "but I'm sure she'll turn up. Leave the lid off the tank and put some food in it." So that's what they did. But the days passed and Doris didn't turn up. Polly felt sick with worry. Jack would be back from holiday next week. What was she going to say to him? Then one day Polly was watching TV when she thought she heard a faint hissing sound. Hiss, hiss. She turned the TV off and listened. Yes, there was the sound again. Hiss, hiss. It was coming from near the window. What do you think it is? Do you think it's a snake? Or could it be that naughty bird? I don't know. Polly went over to the window and pulled back one of the curtains. No Doris. Then the hissing stopped. Polly looked behind the other curtain, and then she heard the hiss again. It was coming from Charlie's cage. He was hissing just like Doris. This time, Polly didn't laugh. She didn't think that was very funny. Mrs. McNair came back from her holiday in Spain. She had a present for Polly, a Spanish doll that looked just like the dancer on the postcard. "Has Charlie been a good boy?" she asked Polly. Yes," said Polly. "Weak, weak," said Charlie. "I've got a new song for you, Charlie," said Mrs. McNair. She carried his cage outside. She started to sing. "You and your Spanish eyes," in her funny high voice. Suddenly, she stopped singing and let out a scream. "Ah!" "What's the matter?" asked Polly. "A snake!" screamed Mrs. McNair. "There's a snake on the doorstep." But it wasn't a snake. It was a snake's skin. Chapter 5 is called Musical Pets. Jack had told Polly about snakes and their skins. He said that the old skin sometimes comes off, and then the snake grows a new one. But Polly had never seen this happen. Now Doris's old skin was lying on the doorstep. It was all thin and pale and dry, not the lovely bright green colour that Doris had been. Mrs. McNair got over her shock and took Charlie home. Polly was glad to see the back of him. She was getting sick of his singing. Who cares about Jean with her light brown hair, she said. It's Doris with the bright green skin that I'm worried about. Where was Doris? She must be outside somewhere. Jack had told Polly that snakes didn't like to be cold, that they could die if it got too cold. The days had been quite warm and dry. But what about at night? Polly looked all over the garden, but she couldn't find Doris. Have you seen her? She asked Bill and Ben. And then she had a horrible thought. Snakes eat mice. What if they eat guinea pigs as well? Mum, we must move Bill and Ben's hutch into the house, she said. Mum gave an extra loud sigh. Oh, I'm sick of playing musical pets, she said. Why do we have to keep moving these animals around? But Polly wasn't going to take any risks. What if she had to tell Katy that her pets had been eaten by an escaped snake? It hadn't rained for a few days, and the fish pond next door needed filling up. As Polly walked into the greenhouse to get the hose, there's the hose, can you see it? She tried not to think about the fact that Jack was coming back from his holiday the next day. But wait a minute. There were two hoses coiled up side by side in the greenhouse. That was very odd. Polly was sure there'd only been one the last time. One of the hoses was shorter and fatter than the other one, and it had some black markings on it. What do you think it was? A snake, did you say? You're right. It was rather an odd hose. In fact, it wasn't a hose at all. It was Doris. Chapter 6 is called Week. Jack came round the next day with another thank you present for Polly. It was a book about spiders. Has Doris been good? He asked. Yes, very good, said Polly. She showed Jack the old snake skin, but she didn't tell him anything else. The evening before Katy was due back, Mum gave Polly 2 carrots to feed the guinea pigs. Thin Bill was standing at the front of the hutch going, weak, but where was Ben? He was always so greedy, and he got fatter than ever over the holidays. Oh no, don't say Ben's escaped now, said Polly. Then she heard a much softer weak noise. At least it couldn't be Charlie the Mynah Bird this time. He was safely back home with Mrs. McNair. The noise seemed to be coming from the back of the hutch. Very gently, Polly took out some of the hay. Yes, there was Ben, but the soft weeks weren't coming from him. Polly took out some more hay. There, cuddled up next to Ben, were 4 baby guinea pigs. So that was why Ben had looked so fat. Chapter 7 is called Jeanie with Light Brown Hair. Katy came back from her holidays looking very brown. Have Bill and Ben been good? She said. Yes, said Polly, but I've got something to show you. Katy was very excited when she saw the baby guinea pigs, but she said, Oh, Ben doesn't sound right for a mother guinea pig. I'll have to give her a new name. I know, Jen. Katie's thank you present for Polly was a little box made of shells. Polly liked all her presents, but the best one was still to come. When the baby guinea pigs were old enough to leave their mum, Kate asked if Polly would like to have one of them. Polly asked Mum. "Oh, go on, Mum, please," she said, and to her surprise, Mum said, "I'll think about it." That normally means yes, doesn't it? It was a little girl guinea pig. Polly called her Jeanie because she had light brown hair. After the song that the Mynah Bird sang. Well, did you enjoy the story? I quite like it. I think it's a nice story. She's very enterprising, isn't she? That little girl, Polly. She's quite a business person. She's got a little business going there, looking after people's pets while they go away on holiday. It's a good idea, that, isn't it? Home pet sitting. It is. I hope you enjoyed the story. As always, it's nice to hear from you. A little bit of feedback is good. Next week, or maybe the weekend, depends what stories Dad's doing, I'll read you some Greek myths. I'll tell you some Greek myths. I've got a storybook of Greek myths. Let me show it to you. Here it is. So I'll get the light on it. Greek myths. I think that's up there. I think that's Icarus, isn't it? Because we've got wings on. We know what that is, don't we? You know what that is, do you remember? The flying horse. What was the flying horse called? Called Pegasus. Yeah, yeah. So they're Greek myths, stories for children. And they've left out a lot of the gory details, but Grandad knows lots of gory details. So what I'll do is I'll add a few gory details, not too many, not to get in trouble, don't to give you nightmares. But we'll add a few gory details because that's the best thing about the Greek myths. Very gory. I've also got some Mr. Man books. So tell you what, let me know what you'd like next. Would you like a Mr. Man book, or would you like a Greek myth? I've got quite a few Mr. Man books. I've got Mr. Rude, Mr. Jelly, who wobbles about a bit, and oh look, Julia, who've got there? Mr. Snow. Maybe we'll do Mr. Snow next, because Julia said that was her favourite one when she was looking at the picture of the Mr. Man in the back of the book. She said that was her favourite one. So maybe we'll do Mr. Snow. Okay, got plenty of books, and I think yeah. So I think I'll read one of those over the weekend. Well, that's all for now. I'm feeling quite weary. Your like is time for bed. Night night. Sleep tight. Way loves you. Grandy loves you. I'll see you all soon. Bye bye. Mwah. I love you very, 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 very much.